he's hot!
What's going on, guys? Logan JYA coming at you as the orchestrator for a brand new Orcust deck profile. We're jamming in a bunch of our favorite engines, and I gotta say, Yubel is playing a major role in this build. If you haven't read the new Phantom of Yubel card, I highly encourage you to check it out because it is going to be helping us out immensely. And do me a favor, help me smash 100 likes and we will do a combo tutorial as well. Don't forget to smash that like button, subscribe for more Yu-Gi-Oh content, and without further ado, let's hop into this brand new Orcust deck profile. Alright guys, Logan JYA Orchestrator here, and we're diving into an Orcust build post Phantom of Yubel. Whatever that new Battles of Legends set is that dropped this insane card, it is a great complement to the Orcust strategy. And I think post a upcoming ban list, or maybe some shifts around in the format, this deck is going to be very competitively viable. So you want to start testing with it now, and you may be surprised at the kind of boards you're able to put up and the sort of safe plays you're able to make to avoid the hand trap to death of things like Snake Eye or other tier 1 strategies. But without further ado, let's hop into the list. Alright guys, starting off the monster lineup, we got triple copies of the Harp Horror, the man, the myth, the legend. Shout out Dan for the Ultras. We're going to be upgrading these to QCRs in the near future. Once that price drops down a little bit, it's a little high right now, I think it'll come down. But of course, triple Harp Horror, this is one of the greatest things we got back from one of our more recent ban lists. It's a phenomenal way to play the deck, and I think it complements the Phantom of Yubel strategy as well, so we're maxing them out. Triple copies of Girsu, no explanation needed there. He's one of the best normal summons you have in the deck. We got 2 copies of Orcust Nightmare. You don't want to play more than 2 because you're going to clog on your Orcust names in hand. That is even still a challenge with this current build. We are over 40 cards. I believe we're at 44, if my math is correct, either 44 or 45. And that is partially for the purpose of burying the bricks, and the other part is so we don't overdraw on the Orcust cards in hand. But even when you do, you have plenty of ways to pitch them off into the grave. Also play 2 copies of Symbol Skelly. This is one you could cut down to 1 in theory, but I find it to be a little bit more safe playing the second copy. And of course your 1 copy of World Wand, absolutely mandatory. Next, we still play the 1 copy of Gizmek. Shout out J-Rad, I still got your copy. You'll get it back eventually. And now I'm going to do things a little bit different in this profile. I'm going to do it in a weird order. I'm going to transition into the hand trap lineup now. I'm going to show you them all at once. We're main decking triple copies of Ash, triple copies of Valor, and triple copies of Imperm, okay? So that's the main decked hand trap lineup. We're doing the 2 forms of targeted negation. Obviously, this is to be prepared for Snake Eye as much as possible, and there are still broad-reaching overall coverage for other decks as well, like your Voiceless Voice, like your Yubels. Imperm and Valor are still very strong, and of course, Ash puts in that double duty against the branded strategy. And this is just a pretty safe, generic main board 9-card lineup that makes sense with our current strategy. Now I'm going to show you guys the sub-engines next. We've got triple copies of Yemseti for the Horus. Going along with it, 1 copy of the Big Dumb Monkey Happy. He always ends up in your hand, unfortunately, but that's okay. This is the 4-card package that we play in addition to the triple copies of the King Sark. Since we do have Harp Horror at 3 now, there are even more better cards that we can pitch off into the graveyard. I wanted to max out the King Sark, and again, we're burying the bricks by putting in additional copies of good cards, and that's why we're at 44 to 45 cards on this list. And then, of course, this needs no introduction because it's probably in the title, but we got the Yubel and the Terror Incarnate. These are mandatory for the Yubel package that establishes the Phantom on the board. It also does give you the Terror Incarnate as a free extender, because what you do is, in case you don't know, you use your Nightmare Throne right here. This blows up your Yubel in the deck, summons out the Terror Incarnate, and then you are free to go into the Phantom of Yubel, which is in the extra deck, and it's a free monster negate. Like I said, this is double duty as an extender. You can normal summon a Harp Horror into that board of Terror Incarnate, go into your Galatea, and then put up your Phantom of Yubel to insulate your Harp Horror's effect before even committing to any additional plays. So although this is primarily a hard-going first piece of the strategy, it also can help you break boards and bait out interruptions when you're going second. And I encourage you to give it a try in this build if you have access. And on top of that, I will also mention I am playing the 1 copy of Terraforming because this searches out your Nightmare Throne, or it can search out your Babel as well. In case you want to go for a different type of end board, you can insulate your plays, or you can go for the Babel and set up your Galatea to get you your Crescendo instead, which, by the way, we are playing 1 Orchestrated Return, which is our Draw 2 spell, and the 1 copy of Crescendo for our Galatea settable targets, all right? Hopefully that makes sense. Again, I said I'm changing up the overlay of how I'm doing this profile just to go through them 1 engine at a time. These are your targets that you can set off of Galatea. You need not play any more than these 3. And finally, I'm going to round things out with some additional staples. I've got triple Forbidden Droplets. This may just be the only way that you can beat some of the decks like Branded or Snake Eyes. I'm also main decking triple copies of the Talent. I was such a fan of this card back in January when we were playing this deck originally, and I wanted to bring it back for this list given how many hand traps are in the current format. Yeah, it's going to be pretty easy to resolve this card. It does work going first or second. I wanted to have it maxed out. And the last two staples that we play is the one copy of Foolish Burial to give you access to any of your Orcust cards, and the one Called by the Grave, Sacked by the Grave. Look at how shiny these things are. Listen, say what you will about the Rarity Collection. I think these are pretty fresh. And that's everything for the main deck. So again, we did in a little bit of a weird order, but we're going to move on to the extra deck next, starting things off with the Orcust package. We've got 2 copies of Galatea. I don't think it makes sense to play more than 2 right now, so we're keeping it at 2. I still choose to play the 1 copy of Longyearsu. I think you're crazy to cut it because, again, going up and through your combo, you have 3 main points of removal, one of them being SP Little Knight, the other one being Dingyearsu, and the final one being Longyearsu. I like having access to all 3 of those main pieces of targeted removal, so I'm going to keep playing Longyearsu for as long as I play this deck. And then last but not least, we got the 2 copies of Dingyearsu. Of course, you got to play both of them. You're going to use both, more oftentimes than not. All right, let's go through some staple links. We got the 1 copy of Link Spider. You use this with your Gearsu. If you're able to use the token summon effect, you need an effect monster to go into your Galatea. That's what the Link Spider's here for. Got the 1 copy of Dark for stealing Darks out of the opponent's grave. Don't forget, we get Dark locked here pretty easily in this deck, so having access to a card like this is extremely helpful. Also play the Barricade Board Blocker. You can actually use this to add back Nightmare Thrones, which is pretty cute. Additional hand fodder, I guess. But really what he's in here for is that free discard from hand. Sometimes you need it, especially if you open something like the World Wand. You want to get that into the graveyard. Going into Barricade Blocker will let you do that. Then we got the IP Masquerena as the end board piece, and IP's more expensive cousin, SP Little Knight. Hopefully she gets a reprint in the near future so she gets cheap for all of our Orcust contenders. I'm still choosing to play the Topologic Zoroboros. This is your Grand Maju in the extra deck, and you can line up some good kill strategies with this guy and your Gizmek. I gotta say, I think I have to practice those lines a little bit more because there'll often be times where I'm going for the Gizmek kill route and then I realize I'm a little bit short of damage, which ends up giving my opponent another turn. So, to kind of help circumvent that, I decided to also put in the Boral Sword because, yes, I do sometimes struggle to close out games. I mean, of course, if you see the Horus package, it's pretty easy. You just keep your big beefy boys on the board and they can help you bridge the gap in damage, but for the times where I didn't, when I was just relying on the Orcust strategy and I wasn't able to go for a Zoroboros kill play, I wanted to add in the Boral Sword Dragon to give me another free combo line because it is so easy to line up a Boral Sword and a Dingyearsu on your field using the Orcust engine. Finally, to round out the extra deck, we've got our rank 8s to go with the Horuses, so we still play the Photon Lord as either a safety net or an end piece, and the Vampire to search out for your Orcust package in case you open only Horus. And then finally, the Phantom of Yubel as your safety net and end board piece that combos with our Nightmare Throne. That's everything for the extra deck. Now let's move on to the side, but before we do that, don't forget to check out the link in the description. Go to Logan JYA website, check out the Field Centers. This is the Orchestrator one. Still got a few of these bad boys left. And make sure you have your tokens to go along with your Gearsu. Shout out Mike Stallone. All right, side deck, and I'm actually pretty happy with this side deck, so let me know what you guys think about it in the comments section down below. Starting things off, we've got triple copies of the Phantasme. I've got the mixed up artworks and rarities, so please let me know how much you hate that in the comments. I think this card's pretty phenomenal right now, especially going into Snake Eyes, and the cool thing about it is it lets you draw into the other more high-impact interruptions, and not gonna forget to mention the targeted protection is pretty clutch as well. Moving on, I'm also playing triple of the Nibiru word because honestly, the thing that inspired me to put this guy into the side deck was after I got rocked with it yesterday, and I was like, man, maybe I'm making a mistake by not having Nibiru in my deck somewhere. I'm not playing Fenrir anymore. I used to side out the Fenrirs and bring in the Nibirus. Now I'm just siding the Nibirus. I think that there's a lot of decks that this comes in handy with, but of course, it just doesn't do enough on its own. That's why we're playing so many different hand traps, so this one in conjunction with a Veiler or an Imperm is going to get the job done more oftentimes than not. And then the last super duper high impact hand trap that I wanted to play was triple copies of the Droll and Lock going into the future formats. So Demon Link is in its infancy right now with Phantom of Yubel just coming out. Yubel as a strategy. Yubel Unchained. Those are going to be very real decks. Droll decent against them, especially depending if they're not playing the backup plans like the Super Parley or the Eternal Favorite. Yeah, you're going to want to have Droll for those matchups. Post Fiendsmith and Infinite Forbidden, this card is going to be mandatory. Might even be moved into the main deck. But for now, it's got a happy home in the side. And just don't forget, there's a bunch of degenerate, like, FTK strategies and other weird stuff running around right now that Droll just stops. So having this in the side deck feels really good and really safe. Doesn't change the fact that I absolutely hate this card, though, as a Drytron player. Alright, next we got Spell and Trap removal, my usual package of 2 copies of Cosmic and 1 Harpy's Feather Duster. Don't need to say much about that. And then the last slot in the side deck, I have it to the Degenerate Dimensional Barrier, just to make those matchups like Voiceless Voice, Branded, or Tenpai absolutely free if you're able to see this card. Alright everyone, that brings this profile to a close, but let me know what you think in the comments section down below. How do you feel about the Phantom of Yubel package in the Orcust strategy? Do you think this is a good way to do the deck? Would you do it differently? Let me know in the comments down below. But that's all I got for y'all today. YuGiOh signing off. Have a great day, and I'll see you beautiful people later. Peace.